Thanks for tuning in to LSC 360, presents here on WSUM. This series features work produced by undergraduate students in Information Radio, a life science communication course. I'm Abby Kochevar, and today we're talking about all things animals. Here with more is Garrett Rand.
Hey everyone, this is Garrett Rand, and I'm going to talk to you about rotational grazing. This is a brief description of how you should really be rotating grazing for your horses. If your horse are grazing on a single large pasture for a long period of time, you could be doubling the amount of forage produced by switching to rotation grazing. Rotational grazing allows a pasture to rest between grazings. Rotating grazed pastures can supply your horses with enough food without the need of additional hay for most of the year. Now we can get into the specifics of this topic. Only a few horse pastures produce close to their potential. Nearly 80% suffer from fertility and serious weed and erosion problems, and most of these pastures are continuously grazed throughout the growing season. Continuous grazing can result in some of the lowest possible yields since the plant can never be allowed to recuperate. And these pastures are a very poor source of food for the horses. Some things to look out for in your pastures include paying attention to the plants your horses avoid eating. Some plants have low nutritional value, such as goldenrod, and those that are poisonous, like Hoary Elysium. But good rotational grazing systems tend to keep most weeds out of the pastures. Coming up next, Abby has an awesome interview.
Now we have the pleasure to talk to Dr. Jamie Kelly, a very special veterinarian from Denver, Colorado. She is going to talk about what exactly she does as a veterinarian, along with the best things about her job and any advice for anyone who wants to become a veterinarian one day. Hi, Jamie. So we just wanted to start by just having you tell us a little bit about yourself.
So my name is Jamie Kelly. I'm a veterinarian here from the Rural Veterinary Clinic in Colorado. I practice mostly with small animals, which means dogs and cats, but occasionally I see some pigs and hamsters and reptiles. Also, when I'm on call, I also see some horses and cows, large animals, but not very often. I got into this field at a pretty young age. I was interested in veterinary medicine because my father was a veterinarian and started this clinic in 1972. So I had an interest right from the start and often visited his clinic while he was at work. And after I did my Bachelor of Science at CU Boulder, I applied for the Colorado State University Veterinary School and got in. I graduated in 1994 and I've been here for 25 years now.
Awesome, thank you. Now can you pretty much tell us a typical day in the life of a veterinarian?
A typical day for me is I come in usually around 8:30. Monday and Tuesday we typically do surgeries, often 4 to 6 surgeries in the morning, and then appointments in the afternoon. We usually see dogs and cats that are sick, often in for their annual physical exam for their vaccines, and various other reasons that they may need to be there.
Now can you talk about what the best part of your job is?
Let's see, the best thing about my job? The best thing is helping animals, obviously, and meeting clients and their pets. It's nice if you get a really sick animal and it's treatable, we'll cure them, or if a dog comes in and swallowed, say, a golf ball or a sock, will die without surgery, and you go in and remove it, and the pet heals nicely. That's really the best thing about the job, is being able to help the animals feel better when they're not feeling well.
That sounds great. And also, can we hear the worst part of your jobs too?
The worst thing is having to put an animal to sleep when it's time. Sometimes, every animal's different. Sometimes it's a surgery that the owners can't afford, and that's really hard. This decision needs to be made if they can afford to do the surgery or not, and sometimes they can't. But most of the time, if the animals are very sick, they could be cancer or another medical ailment, or their life has just come to a stage where their quality of life is not as good as they'd like to see it anymore, and they mainly put down the pet with a cocktail of medications, and they go to sleep peacefully, and it's hard, but try and work with the client to make the best decision for their pet and their pet's quality of life.
That must be really hard at times. Can you go on to what kind of education you need to become a vet?
So for my education, or for the education of any veterinarian, you have to keep up your grades, obviously. You need to get good grades through high school and in your initial undergraduate studies. And you need to concentrate on your sciences and chemistry and biology and physics. You guys get a lot of experience volunteering at a clinic, or often what schools like too is if you've done farm work. They like to see that you've worked on a farm, have some experience with large animals. That really helps. If you keep up your good grades and volunteer, your chances of getting into a veterinary school are pretty good.
Just one more question, and that's, what advice would you give someone who wants to become a vet?
Keep your grades up, keep your interests up, and don't give up too easily, because sometimes there's a lot of things that can discourage you. But, work through that and go for your goal.
Thank you so much for being with us today, Dr. Kelly. It's great meeting you. Next, we are going to talk about some goats. There is no doubt that goat production is a hot topic in Wisconsin. The southeastern part of the state has the greatest concentration of dairy goats operation in the whole country. First things first, there are 3 basic types of goats: meat goats, dairy goats, and fiber goats. Sometimes farmers only have one type, while others have all. You should choose the goat type based on your interest, abilities, and resources on your farm. Let's first discuss meat goats. Boar breed goats are used for meat in the upper Midwest region of the United States. They are originally from South Africa, but were imported into the States in 1933. Next, we have the dairy goats. There are 8 breeds of dairy goats typically found here: the Apline, La Mancha, Nigerian Dwarf, Nubian, Oberhasli, Saanen, and Toggenburg. They differ not by how much milk they produce, but by their fat and protein percentages. Raising these goats can be somewhat difficult, so listen up if you're looking to have goats in the future. It is extremely important to have proper fencing, as goats can climb just about anything. Fencing can either be very tall or electric. Electric fencing is typically the best option because it not only keeps the goats from escaping, but predators stand no chance at entering. Next, housing is pretty simple. They do not need anything elaborate, just something that keeps them warm in Wisconsin winters, so a roof with some insulation is perfect. Nutrition is also extremely important to their well-being, obviously. All animals require the same basic groups of nutrients: water, protein, energy, minerals, and vitamins. Goats have multi-chambered stomachs, so they are able to digest food more readily than simple stomach animals. In general, goats need a consistent source of clean and cool water, high-quality forage, a grain for energy, and free choice mineral with added vitamins. Now lastly, their health. Hoof maintenance is very important for goats as they require trimming 2 or more times a year. Hoof trimming tools are pretty cheap and available at your local farm supply store. These are just about all the essentials you need to know about raising a goat. To get more information, you can pick up a copy of Alan Molim's book, Goat Farming, or Caprine Supply's book, Goat Keeping 101.
That was Abby Kochevar, and I'm Garrett Rand for your LSC 360 Presents. Thanks for joining us today, and stay tuned for more series here on WSUM.